The news on indoor farming has become increasingly grim in recent months, with one high-profile startup after another closing its doors or laying off staff. So are there fundamental problems with the business models in controlled environment agriculture, or are we just witnessing the inevitable growing pains of an emerging industry? I caught up with Michael Wainscott at Revol Greens to get his take.
I used to joke that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if you're a venture capitalist in California, you could not go to a dinner party unless you were invested in a vertical ag or a greenhouse. You had to have that play. Otherwise, you're just greedy. You just wanted money. And you're like, no, I'm now invested in sustainability. And the issue is, it seemed really interesting to invest in it. It's got a lot of noise, catchphrases that sound really, really good. And in reality, they didn't understand what problem it was solving. They didn't understand how they're going to get a return on that investment. They didn't understand how this was going to fit into a really well-oiled supply chain of the U.S., leafy green businesses, for example. And now what we're seeing is investors who really understand what it means to have scale, what it is to find products and solutions that are really helping retailers and helping customers and are providing those solutions as well as a great tasting product. And so now you're seeing that the significant investors are 4 or 5 really big companies that really have the capital, have the mindset, and are really focused on making sure the facilities can operate at profitability, and they really have a path of a good return for them, as well as providing solutions to consumers. I think there were a lot of folks that came in and didn't understand the complexity of the CA space, that it's hard to control the total environment and create tasty, healthy products day in, day out, and to do that at scale that's meaningful. And I think that's been one of the challenges of folks. The other one I think that we see where CEA is evolving is it is increasing in scale. So folks that had 2 or 3 acres of production and were selling it to the local grocery stores, it was a novelty that really works, and it may work in those regions. But if you're looking at national solutions, you're needing a significant amount of capital, and you got to be able to move to positive economics and become profitable pretty quick if you're going to deploy $300-400 million or more to scale your operation. Initially, you saw a huge amount of growth in the vertical space, and you saw a number of well-funded competitors coming in, working and developing and sharpening their tools and their utilization of light, their understanding of plant biology, and we saw a lot of growth and noise there. But when you look at the shelves, you didn't see a big impact. You didn't see consumers really seeing those products all over the country. And then over time, what we've seen is greenhouses really being the ones that have come to solve the scale issue. And we're seeing those, like this facility here. You walk into the facility and you can quickly say, yeah, I can see how this can feed thousands and thousands of people, how this is going to be a system that's going to work and scale. It's almost natural when you look at it. You don't see folks really spending time. I've gone into the vertical houses where they're seeding by tweezers, or they're doing things by hand. This is an automated facility that's built for scale and to solve those problems.
Technology, it's a tool, but it's not a panacea. Where does it make sense to deploy it in indoor farming?
Well, it's one of the challenges, I think, of ag tech is everyone comes out and they try to sell, they try to bring investors in on their shiny new thing and say, look what I've created, look what I developed, it's better, you'll love it, people will love it. And that doesn't really work that way. Technology needs to be used and deployed in ways that create value in what you're doing. And so for Revol, how we look at technology is, how does it enable us to be more efficient? How does it enable us to improve the growth cycle? How does it enable our growers to have more insight into the crops we're growing? How does it enable us to reduce energy and to produce the best product? And so what we do is really look at a lot of the best of breed systems and programs, and what we do is deploy those, and then we'll collect the data from numerous systems into our own process to be able to extract and to correlate data between environment, between energy, between lighting, between each variety, so that we then can make decisions and help our growers be able to grow the best product.
So you've partnered with a Dutch company called Blue Radix What does it monitor, and how do you turn that data into action?
Yeah, with Blue Radix, it's a great partnership we have with them. We've deployed it in our Minnesota facility. We're getting ready to deploy it here in California. And it's a great system to be able to monitor the environment and help our growers. And so what it's able to do is to look at weather patterns and how we see future weather being. And we're looking at how the conditions are in the greenhouse. And it's able to automate certain processes, like as we walked out there, we see curtains move and the shade. We also see where different lightings may come on. And it will control a lot of the environment there based on what the predictions are, what the weather's going to be like. Longer term, we see this as a way that we can take those systems and be able to actually look at weather patterns and be able to look at how do we hedge gas prices, how do we decide what we're going to do on lighting, and really use that to improve our overall operations, and at the end of the day provide our growers the information they need to be able to grow and execute.
So how much money have you raised so far?
Yeah, Revol's been trying to be very efficient with how we grow, and from an equity standpoint, we've raised a little over $100 million for building our growth side, and a lot of that capital is really built around scaling, and it takes time. When you're looking at these facilities, you're looking at a manufacturing process. You're having something you're harvesting every day, you're packaging every day, and to wrap up a manufacturing facility is our biggest cost to be able to do.
So in addition to that, so equity financing though, your key investor has...
Yeah, we've also done sale-leaseback, so we haven't put the capital out for all of our facilities. We own a couple of our facilities, but the vast majority of our facilities are leased, and we do that with our equity partner, Equilibrium Capital. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's a misnomer when you look at leafy greens compared to, people will say, oh, you grow leafy greens, or you go strawberries, or you go tomatoes. The thing that's a little bit different, as we walk through the greenhouse, you see multiple varieties. You know, not all plants like the same amount of sun. Not all plants like the same nutrition. So it's more complex than a lot of other greenhouses, just because you are growing, different varieties. So it's a matter for us of finding the right varieties that have the right yield and have the right, profitability to make sure that we grow those, and not grow things that are just neat to grow. So we've got to have a roadmap for what we grow. And the challenge today when it comes to genetics is most of what we grow were varieties that they did for outdoor. Sometimes the varieties didn't work very well outdoor. And so we're really not seeing yet the full evolution of genomics that are going to be impactful to greenhouses. And I think there's a great opportunity, and a lot of the seed houses are doing it now. We're partnering with different seed houses to help develop the better varieties and really find the ones that make the most sense. And in a greenhouse as well, they're not 100% controlled environment. We still have seasonality of the sun, and so we use different varieties maybe during different times of the year just to be able to make sure we get the quality, the taste, or even the color right that we're looking for.
How are Revol Greens products priced versus field grown?
As we look at it, we're not at parity yet. If you look at our organic product, it's probably the closest to parity. If you go to the grocery shelf, you'll see their premium organic kits and our premium kits to be very similar in price. So we are working, and that's going to be one of the ultimate goals for leafy greens, to get to that 80-90% concentration. We're going to have to get to that parity all the way across every variety that we do, and that's probably going to be anywhere from 4 to 8 years, and that's going to happen through changes and improvements in greenhouse efficiencies, improvements in genetics, and it's also going to deal with the reality that outdoor products probably going to get more expensive as they continue to fight labor issues and weather issues and supply issues. It's going to be continually hard for them to manage their pricing too. In CEA, the leafy green side of it, there are so many advantages that consumers are now getting educated around, and it's a long process. It's going to take a long time to really get the message through, but we really see more and more everyday traction on it. And some of the big differences we see is that it's the sustainability side and the freshness. Most products that you have on leafy greens grown in Salinas, and if you're going to the East Coast, they may have 2,000 miles and 5 days of transport in them. And at that point in time, they've already lost a majority of the nutritional value. Whereas, our product is harvested and should be on the grocery shelves within 24 or 48 hours. So it's super fresh, super crisp, and more importantly, super nutritious. And it gives, our consumers a great product, which is what really matters. It gives our retailers the right shelf life so that we got a product that's going to be there and be fresh for their consumers, and they're going to have good satisfaction. And at the end of the day, then the consumer starts to learn a little bit more about the water sustainability, the factors in pesticides, and understand that each time they buy that product, it tastes the same, it tastes great. And as we walked through the greenhouse, we saw just the consistency all the way through our greenhouse on our products. And at the end of the day, that's what the consumer wants.
So how widely available are your products now? What kind of retailers carry them?
Yeah, we have really coast to coast. We have facilities from Georgia all the way here in California and Minnesota, facility open in Texas. So we're able now to cover, most of the area except for kind of the northeast and the top of the southeast. We don't have quite enough volume yet, but those are areas we'll be growing into, and it's really our goal in the next couple of years to be able to cover, 98% of the U.S. population. In the U.S., the timeline it took for tomatoes to go from, let's say, 1% to 90% of the market, and that took almost 30 years for that process to happen. But I think now with the build out we're seeing in greenhouses and the already awareness of the value proposition of CEA, we'll see that go faster. Now, will that be 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years? That really is going to depend a lot on what happens in the environment. Are we going to see continued water restrictions in Arizona? Are we going to see some of the challenges we see in Salinas this year? It's floods. Last year it was drought and disease issues. So a lot of what impacts outdoor will make an impact of the adoption of indoor and how quickly that happens.